This session was the biggest curveball that I've ever thrown myself as a dungeon master. That might sound weird, but this is session 27 of Rift of Nations, and they broke into a prison to rescue two NPCs. One of them from their backstory as a friend, and the other one from their backstory as a mentor, both captured in the same prison from this certain nation that they're at war with, and they wanted to break in and rescue their friends. And what I thought was going to happen, I always start these videos off with what I thought was going to happen and then what actually happened. And those two things have never been more different. And I was, me and the dice were teamed up on this one. So what I thought was going to happen for my session prep, and I can even shift over and show the session prep mode. Here we go. So session prep mode, we did this some in live streams and everything like that. Session start, I hinted at one of the players having a disease, and I said make a Constitution saving throw, and they failed it, and they lost 1 maximum hit point. And I've established that to be a very scary thing, but that's going to be something that we build up over time. This is just foreshadowing. They reunited with a friend or with a sister of theirs that has been following them, apparently, learned some more interesting information. And I was trying to throw some shade on this NPC character, Broadstone. Broadstone is an NPC. Again, you don't have to know everything. It'd be cool if you guys kept up to date with all of these episodes I do, but there's an NPC that is evil. They are an evil NPC, and the players think they are a good NPC. So it's my job as a dungeon master to give them clues so they don't feel bamboozled and they should have seen it coming. Because if I don't give any clues and they never could have saw it coming, then that's a jerk move for me as a dungeon master, in my opinion. So anyway, this now is some little foreshadowing there. So that's what the session started off with, some role playing, foreshadowing, social encounters, all that stuff. They made the Silent Hill challenge, which, oh man, there was a whole thing on that. It was basically a somewhat of a skill challenge where it was one roll, and they had 4 opportunities to lower the DC of this big final check of this one roll. The DC was 20, and they had 4 opportunities to lower it by 5 each time, and they succeeded on all 4 of those for some clever, interesting ideas of how are they going to get from point A to point B silently, absolutely silently. How are you going to get there? So they did some cool stuff. They made their checks and they succeeded. I didn't even have to make that roll because they succeeded in all of those checks. So I was able to just move right on through that. That was a cool thing for them to feel super accomplished with not even having to make this one roll, right? And then they get to the thing, and now we are into the actual Tauros blockade, and this is my prison area. I had different areas. If you can see here, I had different locations. I opened the location, and there we go. Now we're inside of a location. And now we shift back to here. So what I thought was going to happen is they were going to enter into this place. I didn't know where they're going to enter from. That was part was up in the air. And then I had set up 2 things. This is very important. This is the whole point of this whole thing. As Dungeon Master, I try to give myself multiple opportunities to insert multiple things in. That sounds very vague. I have multiple different places where I can fit puzzle pieces in. I have certain puzzle pieces that are certain shapes as a dungeon master, story beats, NPCs, threads, story arcs, whatever, mysteries, all this stuff that are certain shapes of puzzle pieces and different spots where they could go. And some of them are interchangeable and overlappable, etc. So if there's a murder mystery, and you can do this my example would be in a murder mystery campaign, if who done it? And there's 3 different NPCs that could have done it, and you don't know which one you have assigned to it yet, and you almost want to let the dice tell the story in that way, there's an option to do this. So I did, and this is where the curveball comes in. My original plan is I wrote the game originally is there was a threat level 10 prisoner, and I built it up, and they had some interesting information about a threat level 10 prisoner. And they knew that from the research that they did beforehand in the previous sessions of there's a very, very dangerous, important prisoner that was not either of the 2 that they were looking for. Who's this NPC? I have no idea. I just had a very important person there. Now, in my notes, I can show you all here. In my notes, I had them originally. This is the full behind the scenes everything. Originally, were the prisoners. I go to NPCs, prisoners. Originally, it was this person, Omni, and their name is Hermes. And I had said they were going to be a very, very powerful artificer. And in my head, they were going to be a really powerful artificer that knew how the ancient magics from other nations worked. And they were going to be able to work with Clara, the other artificer in the group, and find some interesting stuff there. That sounds cool and interesting. Yeah. But I also had a second story beat where one of the officers, here we go. And now we go to the Grasslands officers. Aeon Geo is a spy. I planted that seed also early, and I told the players that Aeon Geo is a spy. He's a spy inside of the Grasslands Nation. He's one of the officers. He's a spy. He could be possibly trusted. Ooh, interesting. So I had a mysterious prisoner and I had a spy guard or a spy officer, right? I had two puzzle pieces to fit the same puzzle piece possibly into, depending on which one they bid on, right? So, and you see here in my notes, I had written down that this person right here was a Warforged. Turns out they're not. And here we go. So now, here's what actually happened. So they break into the prison, and where they go and where they decided to break into randomly because they did not have a thing, I gave them options of where they wanted to go. They said they want to approach here. They made that check. They succeeded on it. They get to the wall. They go into the wall. They creatively use magic items to bypass me even asking for checks because it's so creative, using this earth-bending gauntlets to move through the wall silently instead of smashing the wall. Super brilliant. They got in through there, and the place they chose to go into were the officers' quarters. So the place they started into were the officers' quarters of this entire encampment. Out of all the places they could have possibly gone, they ended up in the officers' encampment. How crazy is that? So they, in the room of one of the traitors to their nation, they knew who this person was. They killed him on the spot, got a bunch of information from the inside of it. Didn't stay there for too long. They could have learned more, but they didn't. They collected some papers, and so I'll have that on my notes there as far as what those papers said. I gotta go back and find out. In fact, I can do that here with you guys to show kind of some of the things I do. Is at the top of my session list whenever I'm doing notes like this, when I do breakdowns in my own head. Here I'm doing this with you guys. Is what were in the grasslands notes and notes. So now I get question marks. Now I am going to be able to fill in what that information was and give it to them later on after they escape from this whole thing. So anyway, they got a whole bunch of information, didn't go through it all there, understandably so. They're on a stealth mission or whatever, or breaking a B&E, right? So they work their way through there. They see the vault. They see the vault of and they chose not to go there, which was interesting, and props to them. They did not get baited by the treasure and loot and stuff, and their mission was clear. They needed to save their friends. And I was like, wow, respect, right? And when my players do stuff like that, like they respect the world, they respect they do, it makes me like, that makes my heart feel warm, right? Which I'll get to that in a second. They get through and they get into the prison section. They get inside the prison. They're inside the center of the prison. They make all these deception checks. All these things are going super great for them. They get there and they get inside, and there's a natural 20 moment where they had to figure out how a key works into a lock that they did not know how the key works, and they did not know how the lock works. They have the key and the lock, but they didn't know how to use them because this is a high level prison here. It's not just like, oh, I don't know. So a natural 20 by the artificer to know how to use it and change it, boop, and used it. Got in smoothly. Wow, that could have gone real bad. And they get inside. They're inside now. I think the natural 20 count on this whole thing was at like 5 or 6 natural 20s in very key moments. It was crazy. And we'll get to that. So they're inside now. There's other guards in here. And then they get to the spot where they're just like, oh, we're just investigating the prisoners and we're doing some stuff. They had the officer gear on, made some more checks, and it was fine. It was good. They get to this final door and they're trying to get in the door, and they tell them to open the door, and he gets up from close inspection. And this was the moment where the disguise kit, they had the whole disguise kit thing, and he failed to check on it. He's like, I headbutt him. I was like, oh, okay, wow, here we go. This is another layer here. This is the last opportunity though. I set the stage. Like, you failed the deception check. You have a last chance moment here to stop him from saying anything. And he had the roll with advantage because somebody was helping him. And with that advantage, he rolled 2 d20s. And I shit you not, rolled 2 natural ones in this big pivotal moment. Rolled 2 natural ones. So the dice are telling the story. And that phrase means a lot to me. The dice are telling the story. Rolls 2 natural ones, and it hits the fan. Everything's going, okay, cool. Intruders! He yells it out. The other guards are alerted, and now roll for initiative, right? Here we go. So it's 5 players, 5 guards. They're going through it and everything. The guard sounds the alarm, and the alarm's going off, and then the nature caster goes to the door, spends all of his turns, y'all. I'm not kidding. He spends every single turn holding the door. Literally I just, freaking Game of Thrones moment right there. Hold the door, hold every turn spent holding the door. I created a homebrew mechanic of how he could increase the DC if he kept making higher and higher checks. He eventually rolled a natural 20. So it was insane. He just held the door shut to where the door literally was impassable at this point. It was crazy. And then the rest of the players are moving around. They got to find. So it's a fight within there. Under time circumstances with alarms going off, and they got to find their prisoner friends that are somewhere within these 10 rooms. So there's 10 rooms here, and they had the notes that they got from the officers' quarters of who was in each door, so they didn't have to go and like randomly open doors. So that was really interesting. All these things and how this story was been told is absolutely crazy. I love this freaking game. Anyway, so now there's so many layers to this too. I have to skip over some of them. There's just so much going on. And as I tell the story, I gotta keep focusing on the key parts. The barbarian, it turns and shifts into some shadows with his wild magic stuff. He's going crazy. The artificer's running around, opening doors. What I did this here. I had puzzles. I threw out puzzles to them. And when they got to a door and they needed to open it, I threw down, these little Barnes and Nobles puzzle things where you have to like, okay, this goes in there, and then they have to figure out how that works. Am I not able to do it in front of here? Oh, there we go. Okay. So like, yeah. And I have to figure out how to undo it. How do you undo it? You know what I'm saying? So I threw down this. Anytime they tried to go to a door, I threw a puzzle down in front of them. I put a 1-minute timer over it. They would be able to make the check, but they could make it at advantage if they solved the puzzle. So that was a cool little extra layer there of using physical puzzles in there. But I didn't want it to be like, solve the puzzle, you can't open the door. That's not smart. We're playing D&D. Let the dice be a part of it too. Anyway, you see there's a lot of stuff going on. This is a crazy session. So they're opening doors. They get all the doors open. All the stuff's happening, right? Now, remember those 2 moments I said about those 2 puzzle pieces? One was the suspicious spy double agent officer, and the other one was this threat level 10 NPC. I don't know which one they're going to engage with. We'll see, right? So they're going, it looks like they find their 2 people, they have it, they're good. The door's being held. They're going to open up the door on the side. The barbarian punches through the side of the wall through some checks and help with everybody else, busts out the side of the castle or busts out the side of the prison wall. But they're still within the prison. Like there's the big prison, and then there's the actual jail cells in the center. And they busted out of that, but they're still not out of it yet. And everybody's kind of finishing up, and they're all right, let's go. And everybody had one final round to kind of wrap up and go. And the fighter wanted to do something. He was like, I want to go to the big door. There's one big door, and it was marked with a huge X on it. It was the threat level 10 door. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. We're going to make one final thing here. I threw down a sand timer. I threw down, and the hardest puzzle I had in the whole thing was this double key puzzle. There's another key. It fits on here, and you had to slide them out. I said, this is the hardest puzzle. And you have a minute. And I put it down there, and he's like, starts going for it. And as I'm doing this, I'm also narrating other stuff going on. I'm getting you bust through the door, you see this stuff, and the nature druid caster cast plant growth out in front of them. Spell check, natural 20. I have spell checks whenever people cast spells. It's a whole homebrew system. I'll do a video on the main channel about it. But natural 20, vines go out everywhere. So many natural 20s, so many go out everywhere, and wrap everybody up in vines as they're trying to escape. That's going to be huge for next session, because we're about to end this session, because I ended it on this big note right here. And the sand timer's going down, and he solves the puzzle with just seconds to spare, throws it down. Oh, everybody's like, dang, let's go. So then he has which he gets advantage. He was going to be able to roll 1d20, but now he can roll 2d20s, right? So he's going to roll 2d20s. I said, listen, this is the only check you get. If you want to stay here and check again, you can make another check, but that's going to represent time here. And you have no time right now. Everything's coming down on you. You will have one last chance to do this. This is the only chance. Roll it. And so the DC is 20. The DC is 20 to be able to open this. Here we go. And you see what he needs to roll and all that stuff. He rolls both dice, natural 20. Again, natural 20. So in my moment right here, a Dungeon Master moment, to take a big step back, right here, inside of this thing, this crazy moment, this whole thing I've just described, all these natural 20s leading to escaping and saving both people, and a natural 20 to last minute shot clock open up this door. I can't do that. I can't have it be some random boring person inside. Okay, a prisoner. Okay, yeah, you find Hermes. He's a really crazy artificer. I can't have that happen. I can't have that happen. So what I did, and I pulled a lateral move, last minute shot clock. I basically did this. Copy it over to here. They found the Warforged. And I can't, the reaction at the table when I was like, I ran into this room to go grab a Warforged mini from this shelf and be like, which one is it? It's this one. I grabbed what the Warforged mini was. I ran to the table. I described you opening the door. You swings open and you see, and I put it down in the front of the table, a Warforged, and they know what Warforged mean. In this campaign, there are only 10 Warforged in the world, and then some of them have died. One of the party members is a Warforged, and there's only a few of them left, and they found their first other Warforged. It's not him. And they're like, what? And that is the moment that deserves to be here. Instead of you find some little gnome. That's what it was going to be, a little gnome or a halfling. You find them and they're like, well, hello there. And then like, what? Okay. And then we end the session there. No, I say no. End sessions with big bangs, respect natural 20s, respect the hustle of him going for this in the first place. I switched up the puzzle pieces. You know, you can sue me as a dungeon master, think that that's bad, but that's the dice telling the story, y'all. I decided in my own head, thinking beforehand, okay, the guard, one of the officers, he's a Warforged secretly, and I have these little story plot threads. That's not where the players chose. The players didn't choose to engage with those story plot threads. They chose to engage with these ones. So these are going to be the spicy ones and the juicy ones and the super awesome ones. And now the story will be told through their lens with what they choose to interact with. And it's a Warforged. They just found another one through the actions and epic moments all leading to this. I just got chills. It's crazy. It's awesome. I don't know what other people are going to think about this. Eventually I'll probably tell my players this when we do the campaign wrap up stuff, and they'll eventually see these videos. So I don't know how that feels, but I think it feels absolutely fitting for the dice to be telling a story. And I'm not just going to stick like, okay, well, it's going to be like, it's not going to be against them. It's not like I'm trying to screw them over. It is a natural 20 moment for a natural 20 result. And it was super epic and awesome. And now they found a Warforged. And this story and these different beats representing the puzzle pieces I'm talking about, these different puzzle pieces I have. And this one was like, wow, this is what the dice are saying. This is what the players do. Picking. And now that story is being elevated and progressed forward through finding another Warforged. And now they did it. And that's right into the session. And now they have to get out. And what a great note to end on. Super hyped up for it. Can't wait for the next one. Think outside the box. Peace.